Samantha Young, welcome to Book Club.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I know that my listeners their jaws are on the floor and know how dearly I love you and how often I talk about you on this podcast, so I'm sure they're happy to hear from you. I'm so excited to just dive into all things Samantha Young, specifically Drifting Dawn release, which we will get to anyone worried. It's one of my favorite stories from you, which says a lot because I've read probably 30 of your books at this point.
Wow.
So I'm so excited to dive in, but I try to start every guest episode the same. I started my very first episode of the podcast sharing my villain origin story, how I got into reading. Would you share how you got into reading and then got into writing?
Yeah, of course. I think they kind of tie together, really, because I got into reading because of my parents. Like, one of my first memories is like them giving me this big sack full of like children's books. Amazing. And that was just the beginning. And my favourite childhood memories are me and my mum going to the public library once a month and leaving with a big pile of books every single time. Sometimes rereads. Yeah, just the absolute best. It was like, you know, what people who are obsessed with designer handbags, that's how it felt for me as a child going into the library. It was just like
yes.
designer everywhere. Yes, absolutely. And it just kind of led to, well, I think I was about 8 when I read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. And it was one of the kind of more first, like, more complex children's books that I'd read. And it just was like, the imagination was incredible. And I think it just sparked mine. And I began writing terrible short stories as a child. But it was, you know, practice for becoming an author.
That's incredible. So you've been an author since the very beginning. Was this your dream job always?
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, it's so surreal, you know? It's so surreal. I'm very grateful.
Oh my gosh. Well, and you're just incredible at it. It's so fascinating how just, you know, universe-given gifts just manifest from such an early age, and then it works out in that way. And you've written now over 65 books, is that correct?
I've just finished my 70th book.
Oh my gosh. How do you remain inspired after writing for so many stories?
Do you know, I've always been inspired by, you know, the things around me, music, books, movies, my experiences, other people's experiences, documentaries, all of those things. And that's a well that will never run dry, you know? So I'm very lucky. As long as I'm privileged enough to be able to have access to those things, hopefully that means I'll be writing for a very long time to come.
Incredible. Do you ever experience writer's block, or does it just flow from you?
No, I have had writer's block. I think it's probably mostly connected to burnout because I've been doing this for 16 years. Sure. I'm writing at quite I'm quite prolific, and sometimes you just need a little bit longer because life happens around you, you know, and that can affect how you feel sitting down to write as well. So yeah, I've definitely had writer's block. It's painful. But I've so far, knock on wood, always gotten through it.
That's amazing. I love to hear that. And you write so many different genres as well. Well, not outside of romance, but whether it be suspense or contemporary, or you have some, it's not a megaverse, but werewolf action, like all the above. Yeah. Does it help to kind of pivot within the subgenres to keep your creativity flowing?
100%. I do think that is probably why authors like myself who write in different genres because it just gives your imagination a different place to go, a break from, you know, if you're writing a series that's been going on a while and you just need a little bit of a refresh, go away, write something completely different, and then you can come back to that series refreshed and ready to keep up the momentum with it. Because the last thing you want to do is to put out a book in a series that you're not happy with.
Sure, absolutely. And I think that translates so well in your stories. You can feel the passion about, your characters and your settings and the stories themselves, which is why I love your writing so much. So I
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank
the
you
way
so
you
much.
write
Oh,
deeply.
thank you.
Yes. Speaking of your characters, do you feel like your characters live within your head, and do they tell you their stories, or do you tell them their stories?
I would say it's a little bit of both.
Sure.
Sometimes I go into it and it's not even been characters that sparked the idea, it's been just a
Sure.
scene and it's kind of
Love that.
rollerballed from there. But I've had moments where I've had it because I'm a plotter and I'll plot it out
Love.
and I think I know my characters and then
Yes.
I'll be writing and they pivot on me and it just
Sure.
feels right, so I go with it.
Oh my gosh. And I would imagine that there's quite a bit of pressure. You have some beloved characters within series, and then you finally get to their stories. Examples would be, Baird, or, I feel like everyone in the Highlands series were side characters from Adair's that were highly coveted and awaited. Do you feel extra pressure with those characters who are highly anticipated?
100%. And Bears in
Sure.
particular, actually, because he wasn't even planned to be a main character, and I knew while I was writing that first book, I was like, oh,
People
he's
love
got
them.
major main character energy. I just knew
He
it. And
does.
as soon as it came out, everyone's like, Beard, Beard, Beard. I was like, oh my god, I've never seen readers so feral for a
And he
character.
was perfect. He
Oh,
was
thanks so much.
perfect.
It was
Yes.
an utter joy to write. I was so nervous about it and I write his book in case I couldn't get in his head the way that he comes
Sure.
across from a third point perspective. But
Sure.
he was fun to
He
write.
was incredible, and I'm a Callan Keen fangirl for life.
Yeah.
So I love, love, love that world that you have built. I'm going to transition a little bit to be a little bit bigger picture here. Because this is a book club, do you have any required reading for book club? What are your favorite books to recommend readers?
Oh my goodness, it's, when people ask me that, it's so difficult because there's so many.
Yes.
But the one that jumps up out of my mind right away is the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning. It's like my ultimate series ever. It's, fantasy, it's more in the fantasy, kind of urban
Yes.
fantasy. Catherine Cowles, I have to mention my bestie. I do
Yes.
genuinely love her books. That's how, we bonded.
Oh
And
my
Across the
gosh.
Vanishing Sky is like my ultimate by Catherine.
It
I
was
love that book
incredible.
so much. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
K.A. Tucker, The Simple Wild, that entire series by K.A. Tucker. Um, Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness, which is, more kind of middle grade YA, but it is one of the most
Amazing.
unusual books ever. And The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood.
Of
We can't leave that
course.
out.
Oh my gosh, no.
There's so many
Amazing.
more.
There's so many.
Zoe Draven.
It's so
I have to
fun.
mention Zoe Draven.
Yes. You're like,
I
list
love
them
it.
all. Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. It's so fun too because Catherine was just on and told everyone they
Yeah.
must read the Adaires, so they'll have to read both of
Aw.
your backlists now. And I
Yay.
couldn't agree more. Amazing. Okay, well, now everyone has some good books to add to their TBR. I would love to shift a little bit just to about your author career. I am so fortunate to have so many authors in this book club who listen along every week, and you are just so experienced and have, been through every wave of this industry. Things have changed so much. Tropifying books wasn't really even a thing that long ago.
No.
So I'd love to chat about your career a little bit. One of my favorite questions to ask, if you could grab coffee with yourself at any point in your career, whether it was a hard time or the very beginning, which version of yourself would you like to have coffee with, and what would you like to tell her? It's a tough
I
one.
would love to have coffee with myself when I first got into the industry, because I hit quite big quite soon into my career. I'd only been self-publishing less than a year before On Dublin Street hit big. And
Amazing.
then there was just lots of ups and downs throughout it.
Sure.
And I was so hard on myself, very hard on myself. And I turned 40 this year, and I'm kind of like entered this new decade feeling very liberated and
Sure.
just wanting to, you know, focus on the things I have achieved rather than worrying about the
Yes.
things that I didn't. And so I'd go back and tell myself that's what you need to do. Like, be kinder to
Yes.
yourself.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's so hard to just be
Hmm.
patient, kind, and celebrate your wins. I feel like
Yeah,
that's a very hard thing to do. Oh
very
my
hard thing
gosh,
to do.
yes. And to anyone listening who has not read On Dublin Street, which Samantha just mentioned, phenomenal. It's phenomenal, phenomenal. Please
Thank you.
read them. Yes, oh my goodness. What would you say you're most proud of when it comes to your author journey?
Honestly, that I'm still here.
Yeah.
Like, I had things that I wanted to achieve. I like, since I was a teenager, I wanted to be a New York Times bestseller, and I
Yes.
can't even believe that that's on my author headline.
Amazing.
But when a Dublin Street did do well, me and my agent had a conversation about what I thought my future, what I wanted out of my future in this industry, and I just said to her, longevity. That I want to
Mm,
be able to write for the rest of my life, and as I said before, it's been a lot of ups and downs. So I'm just really proud that I've kind of managed to make it through all of those and still be able to
yes.
be writing books.
Just the resilience of
Yeah,
coming back from hard moments. And I tell clients I work with regularly, the only way you don't make it is if you quit. You just have to keep
100%.
going. Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Definitely.
Was there a story in particular, whether it be from, Adair's Highlands or even back in your backlist, that was the easiest for you to write? And then was there one that was really, really tricky for you?
Um, I would say I would say in the Adair family series, Only You was the trickiest. And
Really?
yeah, it was. Not just because it was the last book in that series. I don't really feel like I felt that for that because I knew there was going to be a continuation. But
Sure.
it was a really difficult. The characters are very flawed in that book. And they're very
Mm-hmm.
flawed. They were very young, and they make mistakes when
Yes.
they're younger, which is real. But you want people to fall in love with your characters, and sometimes it's really
Yes.
hard when they've made mistakes that impact others. And
Sure.
so that was a challenge to just get that right. There was a lot of like re-editing throughout that book, and even now, even though I wrote it and I stand by that that was the right story for the two of them, I still get so mad at the hero in that book, even when I
Oh,
like reread
yes.
it. I
I
get
love
so
him
mad
and I
at
love his grovel. I love
him.
it. So,
But that's it. You needed that in order for the grovel to really mean something, and I
totally.
love I love a good grovel. So
You're the
that
queen
that
of a
was a
grovel.
challenging book.
Oh
I
my
do love a
gosh.
grovel.
No one grovels like a Samantha Young MMC. It's just the best. And it's interesting you say that because I think that Drifting Dawn gives to me Only You vibes in the best possible way with the second chance and the enemies and all the things. So, or not enemies, but just the feelings that came from the past. So, I will dive into that later on. But what book was very easy for you to write?
Easy. In terms of like, I had so much of it in my head for so long. Here
Hmm.
with Me was the easiest. It was the longest book, so it did
So
take a
good.
long time to write. But
Sure.
I actually pitched that book to my publishers years ago. Like, I pitched that just after the Dublin Street series finished,
Oh
and
my
they
gosh.
wanted to move away from Scotland. My publisher, so we can't. I know.
Never.
We put
Never.
it aside, and I just could not get this book out of my head, and it evolved. I feel like it really it needed that time because it evolved into something so much better the longer I got to kind of think about it. So by the time I sat down to write it, it was all in there, which
Just
I
there.
can't say happens all the
Oh my
time.
gosh. Well, it's one of my favorite books ever. So
Thank
I'm
you.
very
Thank you
grateful that
so
you
much.
finally wrote
Oh
it.
my
Yes. Oh my
goodness.
goodness. It's just some of the best work. Kind of digging into suspense as we're talking about it. To you, what makes a great romantic suspense book?
Romantic suspense. I think, I mean, for romance and romantic suspense, it all comes down to great character development. You have to really understand and know your characters, because they are going to, their actions, their choices, who they are going to affect the way the plot, plays out. So great characterization, again, because you want to know, why are these two people the two people that are meant to be together? It has to be in how you've worked out who they are and why they fit. And also, like, the suspense, I would say red herrings. Like, you have to have some really good red herrings for suspense. And not just kind of like throwaway. They have to be kind of integral to the plot, so that your reader could be drawn down any avenue before we actually get to the real main suspense element. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, one of my favorite suspense plot lines ever is Half-Light Harbor, and just the jaw-dropping moment in that story. Like, I just I got chills thinking about it. Like, just the way that played out. Just you just continue to blow away. So I feel like I'm like, I love this book, but you're one of my favorites, so I think I just love them all. I apologize. And it's just like,
no,
this is my favorite,
thank
that's my
you
favorite.
so much.
Just Samantha Young's my favorite, I fear. So where do you get your inspiration for your suspense storylines, and is your Google search history a little bit suspect?
Yes, definitely. I have moments where I'm actually afraid to Google something. I'm like, this is definitely going to bring a knock on the door.
It's going to flag something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Luckily, you just have to walk into my office to know, what it is that I'm up to.
Sure.
But no, I do. For this series in particular, I watched this. There's a documentary in the UK that follows police officers in the Scottish Highlands and Islands. And it's really eye-opening, this documentary. And it's episodic, so there's like 6 episodes a series. It's been very popular. And it's been great for this series. It's really given me a lot of like inspiration and facts to help make my suspense plots authentic.
Sure.
I mean, they're kind of melodramatic for the series, but they're based in real things that happen in the country.
Incredible. I would love to talk about the setting of your stories. I just feel like they are so crystal clear in the way that you describe, and I would assume and hope that a lot of it is inspired by your absolutely gorgeous home country of Scotland. Are your towns and locations always fictional, or are they inspired by somewhere? Where do you get your inspiration?
They're definitely inspired by real places. I'm very lucky to have been born in such a beautiful, beautiful country, and
gosh, yes.
It's just a stunning place, and it's given me lots of inspiration. My main towns are fictional, but they are inspired by real towns, and then I will sprinkle in some real places so that readers, and I get emails and DMs all the time from people visiting Scotland saying, I went to this castle that was in the Adair family series, and I just love it so much. So Ardnock is based on a place in the northeast called Dornoch, which is a beautiful little touristy village, and the estate itself is based on, inspired very loosely by a members only club in the area as well. And then the new series, The Isle of Glenbullen, it's fictional, but it's kind of taken inspiration from Skye, the Isle of Skye, the Isle of Mull, and even a little island in the north of England called Holy Island, where people live there and they can't leave when the tide comes in because it washes away the road that connects to the mainland. So that's where I got the idea of the store. It's really I'm fascinated by the island, and I just love this idea of people just we let our lives be dictated by the tide. That's fine. That's cool.
Why not? And what a beautiful way to live, and just like such a fun thing to imagine. I think Scotland needs to give you some commission on tourist dollars, because there has to be.
I've been saying this for years. Yes, I've been saying this for years.
My family's going overseas for vacation this summer, and my mom and I were like, Scotland for Samantha Young. Scotland for Samantha Young, please. France ended up winning out this time with the rest of the family. But as I told you before, Oh my gosh. As I told you before the episode, my mom and I are just the biggest Samantha Young fans. And so we're trying to convince Dad and my sister, we have to go to Scotland for Samantha Young. It was awesome. So I think you do need tourist commission. I'll send an email about that to somebody.
I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Jumping back out a little bit to just suspense in general, and you're also the queen of a cameo. I love how homey your stories feel and getting to see the characters that we love so much over and over again. Have you ever left any Easter eggs that you wish people would notice but haven't, or is there anything that you're like, you should pay attention to this?
I have one, but I think it's still too soon because I dropped the first Easter egg in Hart Street Lane, the Return to Dublin Street series, but the second Easter egg is in Drifting Dawn, so it's two different series. So really, it'll be readers that are reading both those series, and hopefully I'm waiting for someone to message me and be like, Samantha, what is this? What?
Well, I said, there's another Baird. Is this true? Like, what is going on here? Yes, hello? I know. I was like, that name is very familiar.
Yes.
Yes, everyone. Is that correct? Is that my guess?
There's a character who Baird is friends with who we never meet on the page.
Yes,
but his name is mentioned. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And then it's dropped again in Drifting Dawn. Yes.
I said, I know you. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm glad that I wasn't crazy. I was listening and the lovely Shani said that and I said, hello?
It's quite an unusual name, so I'm hoping people pick up on the fact that it's been said twice in two different series.
I said to my mom, I said, is it just a coincidence that she named both? And she's like, certainly not. No way she is. So I'm very excited. Okay, I'm glad I was not going crazy. I was like, am I going crazy? Okay, everyone pay attention. Yay. I do just love your cameos and the world that you've built. It just feels like home in such a beautiful way. So thank you for the way you write that.
Thank you. Yes. I do love found family. It's one of my favourite things to read. And whether it's real family or found family, it gives cozy vibes. It really does.
It really does. Speaking of tropes, then, do you have a favorite trope to write? A trope you'll never write? And then a trope you're dying to write? I feel like maybe after 70 books, perhaps there's nothing, no stone unturned, but maybe.
I don't know. Like, I can tell you my favourites. I mean, you picked up on Enemies to Lovers. I just absolutely love to write those. It's just the banter. You can have, like, what I love about it is it can be, like, really lighthearted and snarky banter, or it can be, like, that kind of, like, really angsty, my chest is, like, aching. So I love that. I love Marriage of Convenience. I just love, like, the forced proximity and the tension in Marriage of Convenience.
Skies Over Caledonia, one of the greatest.
Absolutely. I love to read and write that trope. It's one of my absolute favorites. I'm trying to think of I don't think there's any trope, I don't think, that I wouldn't write. And honestly, maybe I have written them all.
Maybe, yes.
I have first memory, so I'd have to go back through them and have a look. But as you said, like, tropes did not exist when I first started. They did exist, but it wasn't a thing, when I first started.
Marketing tool.
So for, like, the first maybe 40 of my books, I didn't really... Sure. Yeah.
I talk with Corinne Michaels about this all the time. She's like, the tropes existed, but it's just the story. Like, tropes are the story. It's just, you just wrote the story, and then the tropes came, not the other way around. So
100%, I agree.
Yes, absolutely. Is there one that you are dying to write again here soon, or that you're hoping to return to?
Well, I just finished writing Marriage of Convenience, which was just wonderful. Loved writing that. I would say probably I just love Grumpy Sunshine. I would really like to and I like reverse Grumpy Sunshine as well. So I haven't done that in a while, so maybe reverse Grumpy Sunshine would be good.
Sure. Oh my gosh, that would be so, so fun. And back to you about like enemies to lovers, you do such a phenomenal job with that trope. And what I love is that with Samantha Young, it's always going to work out. You can have your heart tight and your chest and just be so worried for them. But I do just so, it's always going to work out in the most beautiful way, and the tension will snap, and it's the best. So I love the way you do this. Okay, let's kind of shift a little bit to just suspense world in general. I am just a huge romantic suspense reader. It's my favorite. So I would love to talk a little bit about just the Ardnok volumes in general, the Adaires and the Highlands. After writing, it's an 11-book saga, is that correct? What was it like to transition somewhere new after being with those characters and in that world for so long?
It was nerve-wracking. It was really nerve-wracking because when I finished the Adair family series, I was like, well, when I was coming up to finishing it, I was like, this is not done for me. I have so many more stories to tell in the series.
Yes.
But by the time I got to the end of it, I was ready to let go of the series, but it was, how do I create, because it really felt real to me. Even me as the author, it felt like it could be this real place, these real people, and I was like, can I recreate that? Is that even possible? So there was a lot of pressure, but I think the joyful thing about the Scottish Isles series is that it has that, quintessential Samantha Young feeling to it, especially being based in Scotland. But the island life gives it something different. It kind of has a different atmosphere to it. The suspense is a little bit different. It's a little bit more global, the suspense in this series compared to Ardnok. But I think the threads of what made readers love Ardnok are still in the Scottish Isles series. And the characters they just came fully to life for me when I started writing it, which was a great relief.
Yes, oh my goodness. I just... And I mean, to the reader, too, it's just like, oh, this is exactly what we love about Samantha Young. And just, she's back, like, not that you went anywhere, but just back in the suspense world, because I love Back on Dublin Street, too. I just love everything you do. So it's just so fun to get to go on that journey with you as a fan. Speaking of Back on Dublin Street and even the Highland series, you integrate second generation in such a fun way in your stories. Is it odd to see the children you write all grown up and falling in love, or is it just, well, of course?
I think it's different for each of them, and I think sometimes I've been asked a lot about a particular character in the On Dublin Street series, and I never gave him a story because he just was never in my mind to get a story. So he was kind of just like, no, he's the little brother, and I can't for some reason psychologically make that switch. But everyone else that's second gen for me, I always knew in my head that it might go there. If the series did well, I'm writing these people to grow up and get their own story. So I feel like it's all about intention. And with the On Dublin Street series, I wrote On Dublin Street never thinking it was going to be a series. It did so well that it was my publisher. They were like, "Can we get a second book?"
Yes.
And so that's kind of where the series came from. But the series, the Highland series, that was always the intention to kind of build over years, rather than just.
And with the Ardnok volumes, Adaires and Highlands together, it adds to the found family. It just adds such a layer to that of getting to watch, the Adaires and their love stories, and then towards the end there of the Highlands to watch their children fall in love after all that time. Like, it's just the extra layer of found family you didn't even know you wanted or needed in the best way.
Definitely, and I think it lets people see the previous characters. They're still happy. I think people want that. They want to know that the characters they loved 20 years down the line are still in love and still happy, and that you can have love in your 40s and it still be passionate and
Yes. Oh my gosh. I read a book the other day and the line was women don't expire when they turn 40 and I was like, "Well, yes." Like, write it. Oh my
100%.
gosh. Like what on earth? Yes, that's amazing. And Forever the Highlands is one that comes to mind where it's like we knew she would make the best FMC. Like we just knew it. Even as
Yeah.
when we read her when she was younger and then to watch her which is one of my favorite FMCs.
Oh, thank you.
Just so fun. Yes. All right. So let's see. I'm walking down a list. We've been segueing so beautifully.
No.
You're just making me feel like I'm just feeling so smooth. Okay. So between the Adair's Highlands and the Scottish Isles series, which characters? I know we talked about books that came naturally to you. Were there any characters that came super naturally to you, and then anyone who is difficult for you to write? I know we talked about Only You and all that.
Yeah. Characters. Well, anytime someone asks me who my favorite female main character is, it's Robin from Here With Me, because she is such an aspirational heroine for me. She is just
Incredible.
like the ultimate badass. I wrote her to kind of be like, she almost feeds off fear a little bit. You know, like
Sure.
it gets her adrenaline up, and I think that's why she was a cop and all of the things. So she's just a very interesting character, and I loved exploring her because she's actually quite from myself. And some of my favorite characters before are the characters that, you know, I could relate to the most. But I just loved her because she was so cool.
She's the best.
Really loved her for that. Yeah, and she was easy to write because I'd wanted to write a character like her for the longest time. I would also say that in the Highland series, I think the easiest character to write was probably I would say Ailey, actually, because she had such a progression, and it gave me a long time to like work with her character and figure out who she was and all the things that she would be dealing with behind the scenes based on the things that had happened to her. And I'm hoping that actually the readers would be quite surprised by some of the things that she had internalized, because that's relatable, you know, like people are not infallible, you know, they do, and I do tend to overthink things and internalize these things. So she was really easy to write just because I had so much time with her. I absolutely.
And like the most confident people oftentimes are, or seemingly confident and spunky people have the most
100%.
Internally.
100%. I agree, definitely.
Yes, I couldn't love her more. So let's chat about Drifting Dawn, though. I am just so pleased that it's out in the world. And for anyone listening who doesn't know, would you mind just sharing a little bit of a overview of their story?
Yeah, sure. It's the second book in the Scottish Isles series, but they're interconnected standalone. So if you read the first one, you don't have it. And it's about Beth and Quinn Macquarie, who were born on a Scottish island and were childhood sweethearts. But something happens when she goes off to university and they break up, and she never returns to the island because she's so heartbroken until 19 years later, unfortunately, because she loses her mum and she promises to take over her mum's business. And she's just trying to get through the grief and move on and find her purpose again. And Quinn is a single dad who is determined to win back Taryn because he's never ever gotten over her. And obviously with it being suspense, there's some kind of malicious forces, outer forces that bring them together at the same time trying to tear them apart.
Oh my gosh. I'm just obsessed with this story and their love. And I love the way you usually write Second Chance where it's been 20 years. And you know, it's so fun to see how they've evolved and the way you do your prologues and your timing and kind of flashbacks and those kind of things. So it's absolutely incredible. And these characters are just so unique. So I would love to know what your favorite qualities about Quinn and Taryn are.
Quinn, you know what I love about Quinn is that he learns quickly. He basically started off in the book, he's very emotionally closed off, which is surprising. The person that everyone comes for advice. He's so great at like rolling out advice, but he does not open up himself. And it's when he realizes that's what he's doing, and he realizes it through his children, that's when he can be open with Taryn about how he feels about her. And honestly, I think he's the most romantic hero I've ever written. Some of his lines just are like swoony.
They are.
So I love that about him. And Taryn, what I actually really love about Taryn is that she's been put through so much, and she's in quite a vulnerable place. And she could be like, could be forgiven for being selfish. She's not. She's like, her genuine purpose is to be helpful to others. Is like she's worked for a global charity, or national charity, and that is her purpose, to help her. And that's really inspirational in Taryn.
I adored her, and what I really loved, especially in the beginning, is she's like, don't come near me, don't talk to me. I just love a strong woman who's just like, don't you dare.
Yeah, she knows her mind at the beginning of it, and it's all about communication between the two. It's not about holding unnecessary grudges, or she genuinely does not want anything to do with him. And it's only as they're pushed together and they're forced into like proper communication they can get through what.
Oh my gosh. And when you were speaking up, Quinn, I was thinking about this morning. You have so many different types of characters within your backlist. Like, you don't just write one type of man. Like, you think of Walker Ironside, and then you think of, Quinn even. Like, they're so different. And it's so beautiful to just see how different, like, I really feel like they're just whole three-dimensional people that you write. I'm like, I know them, and yes, oh my gosh, like, it's just, if he's grumpy, he's not just grumpy, there's something to that, and being the advice giver versus maybe closed off for whatever reason. And I know we chatted about, like, your characters in the beginning a little bit, but does that come naturally to you, or do you have to work to really get to know them?
Sometimes it comes naturally. Sometimes, like, if the character has come to me first, it's usually a much easier process. But other times, I use a program called Plotter, and it helps me figure out who my character is. Like, I think about where they start, where I want them to go, and then that helps me dig down into their... Sometimes I use personality typing, different things like that, which can be helpful. But I never want my characters to feel like they're the same person repeated over and over. And I believe that, like, different kind of heroes can be just as, appealing. Walker, he is not someone who is a talkative person. So he's a very deep individual, and it's trying to, the challenge was trying to, like, still make him very, a romantically appealing character to the reader. And so it's a lot of internal thoughts with Walker and actions over words, whereas Quinn is all about the words.
Oh, yes.
It's about the action too, but he is not afraid to be extremely romantic with his words.
Totally. I love the way you do that. Also on Quinn, I feel like you wrote such a uniquely beautiful relationship with his children and how that dynamic plays out. Very broad question there, but can you just speak on that writing process and that element of the story?
I knew I needed... When I was going into the story, I knew that Quinn needed a wake-up call. Quinn needed to realise that he was cutting himself off from people around him. And I think the deepest relationship is between a parent and their child, Yes. And so if anyone was going to give him the wake-up call, it was going to be his children. And so his daughter, Heather, it starts off in the book, they're having difficulties in their relationship, and he doesn't know why. He's always been very close to her up until this point, and he, through the help of his sister, Cammy, he realizes that the only way he's going to get his daughter to open up is if he opens up to her first and start treating her like an adult. And so it was just a really beautiful moment between them, and I did cry while I was writing that scene. I really did.
Too. Me too. Oh my gosh. It was just such a beautiful, again, just layered stories, because it's the suspense and it's the romance, but it's also the relationships, and Taryn with London, and just like her opening back up outside of that, and the B&B and the found family. Like, you have so many beautifully fleshed out storylines in your writing. I so appreciate it. Again, I feel like I'm like Samantha Young. I'm such a fan, and just always continually impressed.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
It really does mean a lot. It really does, because that is the one thing a lot me and Catherine and other author friends talk about, is the more books we write is like keeping it as fresh as possible within the genre, so that long-time readers are still enjoying the books that we put out,
Yes, and to anyone who is an audiobook listener, you have phenomenal audiobooks. To Americans who love the accents, Shane East continues to just do a phenomenal job with your stories. Has it been fun to like listen to your stories come to life? And do you listen to your own audiobooks, or is that like cringy moment for you?
I can't listen to all. I will listen to little bits. I can't. It's very strange having something you've written, especially this kind of spicier scenes.
Sure.
But I have like brought to tears. Like, I've been sent. I sent auditions for a scene, and it was I deliberately picked a very emotional scene because I wanted to get that range. And I was like crying listening to it. I was like, wow, they're so talented. Yes. They're so incredibly talented.
Yes, so to any audiobook listeners, Samantha's audiobooks are just a phenomenal listen. I highly, highly recommend. But what am I allowed to ask what is next? I saw just a few moments ago that you had shared your last now next on social media. Be sure you go follow Samantha if you are not already. Can you talk about anything with Twilight Tides coming up?
Yeah, so it's coming out July 16th. I do character. I mean, I think we've read the book, I've guessed, and I do have a little thing at the end, but some readers missed that. So yes. I'll not say here because I'll be posting on my socials at the beginning of next week. Because we have the cover and blurb reveal next Wednesday, so I don't want to keep anyone waiting.
Well, this comes out on Wednesday, so go check Samantha's social media for all of the information. It's so exciting, and thank you for releasing so quickly that we don't have to wait. I'm so excited about that. And I try to end the episode, you kind of have an active, captive audience of Samantha Young fans. Is there anything that you would like them to know, or anything you would like to say to them?
Just thank you so much for continuing to read the books, and I hope that you pick up on the Easter egg in Drift and Dawn, because it is important, and hopefully by the time everyone gets to the fourth book in the series, which comes out in October, will know more, and you'll realize why it's important.
Oh my goodness. July and October, Samantha. Oh my goodness. You are keeping us just fed as readers. I cannot thank you enough for talking with me and letting me fangirl over you for 45 minutes. I'm like, I hope it's not too much, but I just truly...
No, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, I adore your stories
so much.
I just cannot recommend enough.
I honestly, I'm so appreciative, and every time I get tagged in one of your posts, it makes my day. So
I'm so glad to hear it. It is often I get to the point where I'm like, I probably shouldn't tag her anymore. It's been 6 days in a row. It's been 6 days in a row of me saying, you need to read Samantha Young. So maybe I should give her a break from me, but I just there's such comforts and such phenomenal reads, and just some of the best in the suspense realm. So anyone listening who has not read, I just highly recommend. And thank you for joining us for book club.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing. I've loved talking with you.
And we'll see all of you all in the next one.